Good morning Year 8 and welcome to today's maths lesson. I'm going to start us off with a quick starter. Please can you find 2/9 of 81? Can you please convert 5/2 to a mixed number? And can you convert 2/5 to a decimal and a percentage for me? Pause the video and have a go at those now please. Okay, let's go through some answers. I've got 2/9 of 81. If I wanted to find 1/9 of 81, I'd do 81 divided by 9, which would give me 9. If that's 1/9, to find 2/9, I need to do 9 times 2, which should have given you 18. I've got 5/2 as a mixed number. How many 2's go into 5, Violet? 2. Lovely, thank you very much. And I've got 1 left over, so that would give me 2.5. I asked you to convert 2/5 to a decimal and a percentage. To convert it to a percentage, I want to put it over 100. 5 times what is going to give me 100, Sophie? 5 times 20. 2 times 20 gives me what, Tamsin? 40. Fantastic. So as a percentage, we're looking at 40%. And to go from a percentage to a decimal, we need to divide by 100. So that's going to give me 0.4 as a decimal. Okay, so today's lesson, this is where we are headed. Questions that look a little bit like this. A quick recap. I said to convert a fraction to a percentage, we wanted to make the denominator 100. For example, if I had 18/30, my first step would be to divide by 3. So I've got something over 10. Dividing by 3. Izzy, what's 18 divided by 3? 6, thank you very much. And then I want to put this over 100 to convert it to a percentage. So I need to multiply by 10, and 6 times 10 is going to give me 60. So I've got 60%. Quick check, Jonas. How do I convert 60% to a decimal? Divide by 100. So if I'd asked you for that as a decimal, you would have got 0.6. Okay, quick recap. What do I do to go from a percentage to a decimal? We just did it. So Violet, what do I do? Divide by 100. Awesome. Misha, if I'm dividing by 100 to go from a percentage to a decimal, how do I go from a decimal to a percentage? Times by 100. Thank you very much. Can you now please pause the video for a minute and have a go at these 2 questions for me in your light blue books? Pause the video and have a go now. Okay, let's go through some answers. 5%, I need to divide by 100 to give me that as a decimal. So you should have got 0.05. And 1.76, to convert that to a percentage, we're multiplying by 100. So that would have given us 176%. This was all stuff we did last lesson. Can you take your blue books out, please? And you can carry on from where we left off, or you can write a new title. We looked at turning a fraction to a decimal and making the denominator 100. There is another alternative way of doing it, and that is going to be the bus stop method. That's going to give us a decimal. So I'm going to go through an example and then you're going to go through an example. So please put your pens down and watch. If I want to convert 5/8 to a decimal and a percentage, I'm going to use the bus stop method. So I'm going to say, what is 5 divided by 8? Remember, your numerator goes underneath the division sign and you're dividing by 8, so that goes on the outside. How many 8's are there in 5, Logan? None whatsoever. Great. Remainder 5. James Cork, how many 8's are there in 50? 6 8's 48. Lovely. 2 left over. Demi, how many 8's are there in 20? 2, thank you very much. I've got 4 left over. And finally, how many 8s are there in 40, Jake? 5 8s are 40. So as a decimal, that would be 0.625. If I want to convert that into a percentage, I need to multiply it by 100. So times it by 100, which would give me 62.5%. In your dark blue books, can you now have a go at this example? Pause the video and convert 3/8 into a decimal and a percentage, please. Okay, let's go through the answer. I'm going to use bus stop division. This time I'm doing 3 divided by 8. Joseph, how many 8s are there in 3? None whatsoever. Lovely. 3 left over. How many 8s are there in 30, Libby? 3 8s in 30, which will give me 24, so I have a remainder 6. How many 8s are there in 60 for me, Lily May? 7 8s are 56, lovely. So I've got 4 left over. And how many 8s are there in 40, please, Mia? 5, lovely. To convert this into a percentage, I multiply by 100 to give me 37.5%. So we've gone through multiple methods of going from fractions to decimals and percentages. We've said make the denominator 100 or bus stop. Can you please pause the video now for about 10 to 15 minutes and have a go at these questions in your light blue books? Can you convert these fractions into both decimals and percentages for me? You can choose which method you want to use, whether you want to make the denominator 100 or the bus stop method. Remembering, if you use the bus stop method and get a decimal, you need to multiply by 100 to get the percentage. If you make the denominator 100 and get a percentage, you need to divide by 100 to go the other way to get a decimal. Pause the video now for 10 to 15 minutes and have a go. Okay, Year 8, these are the answers I was looking for. Please check your work and see how you did. Pause the video to check your answers and then we're going to move on. Okay, so we've got one final discussion to have. We've said to convert a percentage to a decimal, we divide it by 100. But what we haven't looked at is converting from a decimal to a fraction. To do this, we need to put it over a power of 10 denominator. Put the decimal over a power of 10 denominator. Please can you copy this into your dark blue books now. Pause the video and then we're going to move on. Okay, so what do I mean about converting it into a power over a power of 10? I'm going to go through some examples and then you're going to go through some examples in your dark blue book. So pens down and watching me, please. So my first example says, what's 0.8 as a fraction in its simplest form? If I use a place value table, 0.8 looks like this. So if I look at where my 8 is in my tenths column, so that is going to equal 8 tenths. I've got 8 in my tenths column. I can simplify that by dividing top and bottom by 2, which would give me 4/5. How about 0.08 then? This time I've got my 8 in my hundredths column. So I've got 8 lots of 100. I can then divide by 2 to give me 4 out of 50. And I can simplify this further, dividing by 2 again to give me 2 out of 25. For my last example, I've got 0.085. This time I've got a 5 in my thousandths column and an 8 in my hundredths column. I can't write this as 8.5 over 100. It would be much easier to write it as 85 over 1,000. Because to simplify a fraction, we need to start with a whole number on the top. I can then divide top and bottom by 5. That would give me 200 on the bottom. And 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 on the top. And that's my simplified version. now, in your dark blue books, have a go at the examples on the right-hand side, please. Pause the video and then we'll go through the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. The first one, we've got 2/10, as that 2 is in the tenths column, which we can simplify to 1/5. For the second one, I've got a 2 in my hundredths column, so I've got 2 hundredths, which we can simplify to 1/50th. And for the last one, I've got 25 thousandths, which I can simplify to 1/40. Okay, can you switch now to your light blue books, and can you have a go at these for me, converting each of these decimals into a fraction in its simplest form? Use the place value table, and remember, if you've got more than one number after the decimal place, for example here, you're going to want to write that as 66/100. So you've always got a whole number on the top. Pause the video for about 10 to 15 minutes and see how many of those questions you can do in your light blue book. Okay, let's go through some answers. Here they are up on the board. Please check how you did. You should have got 3/5, 3/50ths, 33/50, 13/20, 14/25, 11/20 and 3/500, etc, etc, etc. If you got stuck here, do not worry. These ones are a little bit trickier, so I wouldn't expect everyone to get those. However, if you did, well done. 13/2, 121/20, 1201/200 and 253/50. So this is what we were looking at the beginning of the lesson. I was asking you to complete the table showing equivalent fractions and percentages and circle the 3 values that are greater than 1/2. Please can you pause the video now for about 3 or 4 minutes and have a go at these questions. Okay, let's go through some answers. I've got 3/10. To convert that to a percentage, I want to put it over 100. 10 times 10 would give me 100. And 3 times 10 would give me what, Misha? 30. So that would be 30%. 43%. To turn it into a fraction, that's 43% is 0.43 as a decimal, if I divide it by 100, which would then give me 43/100 as a fraction. I can't simplify that. And this is an interesting one. I've got 5/2 as a percentage. I want to put this over 100, so I go through it exactly the same way. 2 times 50, 5 times 50 gives me what, Theo? 250. So this one would give me 250%. Cool. I then need you to circle 3 values that are greater than 1/2. Now 1/2 is just equal to 50%, which is, if I divide it by 100 to get a decimal, 0.5. Which of those are bigger than 0.5 or 50%? You should have got 65%, 0.76, and 2/3 is greater than 1/2. And that's the end of today's lesson. Thank you very much, Year 8. Best of luck, and please now have a go at the exit ticket provided for you on Google Classroom. Thank you very much.